Is it gone? I don't see. Ah,
Hang
okay.
on, hang on. Wait for it to kick in. Wait for it to kick in. There we go.
All right, Matt. We're recording out of sequence. We're just waiting for our guests. So I said, hey, why don't we? We don't have much to chat about. So I was like, hey, why don't we just chat now, and then it'll kind of fill in the gap a little bit. And you said you had one thing. I kind of had one thing as well. So do you want to do your one thing first?
Yes. I don't know if you were watching or listening to Tech at all this week, Graham. I was a guest on one.
I did not, but I saw you're also on again tomorrow, and Bad Cop certainly noted that
Well,
appearance.
Bad Cop can keep making a note of that because I'm actually now
A
part of the team.
regular.
I'm part of the team now apparently. So
I figured.
I was approached by Tanner and would I like to be semi regular? I'm like, I love talking about football when I get to in this house. So it would be great if I could. I can't do it all the time because I have commitments, but it's something I could just turn up, talk about, and leave them to do the rest of it. It's just nice to be in company of good people on a Sunday afternoon.
It's a good job you cancelled some of your other podcasts. Although how they might feel about that, I don't know.
Well,
Sorry, I got to cancel you. I don't have any time to do podcasts. And then a week later, oh sure, I'll accept another
it,
invitation to
it's
do a
um,
podcast.
it's more a case of the production side of things, Graham.
Okay, sure. Okay, I
Do you know
got
how much you know firsthand how hard it is to do some editing sometimes?
you. Uh-huh.
Well, think about remember when we had Good Cop, Bad Cop doing all that those little bits and pieces, putting all the good, bad, and shorts, all those little
Uh-huh.
bits and pieces into it.
Yeah.
Times that by six,
About
and
a
you'll know.
year ago for me, but yeah.
Yeah, well,
Because it
I
was
follow.
worth it.
I follow your lead now, Graham. It's much
Yeah,
easier system for editing now,
yeah.
but but I know you don't. If you've listened to when I've edited Dungeons and Junkies, for example, it takes hours because you've got to listen to every single part and think what bit of music works best in this scene. It just takes forever.
I
It
thought you
takes
were going to
forever.
say it takes hours because you listen to it and then you like nod off and then you wake up and you're like, oh shoot, where was I when I?
Anyway, like straying from the point, you weren't in the Texas this week, Graham. In that case, then you will not have heard the outrage that happened at half time.
For which
At
match?
the half time in the Arsenal Tottenham game, which was a cracking match by the way.
Yeah, I saw the
Um,
highlights on NBC, but
it was
yeah,
it was cracking. Well, at half time, I mentioned because I came back onto the camera having been to put dinner in the oven for me and Chris. I made a homemade toad in the hole, which
good.
is lovely. Anyway,
That'll be
um,
very confusing for any American listeners right now, so they can
well,
go.
this is what the problem is, and I thought and Mags actually said this would be one of your hot takes on food, because he said we explained what it was. It was like sausages in a batter, and at that point, Tanner says, "Oh, so pigs in blankets then?"
Ah, now that tweet makes a lot more sense then. Okay, yes, no, then that's not the same thing at all. That's totally different. That's
Hmm.
sausages wrapped in bacon. Yeah,
That's what we said,
totally
but
different.
when you Google pigs in blankets, it comes up as sausages in a croissant.
Oh,
Because
okay.
in America, pigs in blanket is sausages baked into croissants,
Oh, I didn't even know that. Oh,
and
wow.
they look foul.
Yeah, I don't like that croissant stuff.
Yeah.
The
So
wife
when we
eats it. My mother-in-law likes it. I always pass. I don't
it,
like it at all.
everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Yep.
This one is just wrong.
Yeah.
Tanner was amazed. Like it's just bacon wrapped around sausages. I'm like, yeah, it's literally a pig wrapped in bacon. What's wrong with that? Bacon wrapped in bacon, effectively. What's wrong with that?
It's pretty tasty.
Yeah,
It's
Tanner says that sounds weird. I'm like, that sounds weird. And some of the stuff that you Americans eat. Anyway, that's all I wanted to run past you, Graham. And pigs in blankets for you is definitely the right thing to go. See, even bad cop agrees with me.
Well, that's kind of appropriate that you wanted to talk about hot food takes because I wanted to talk about the post that I put on yesterday. The Pleated Jeans asked, like, what is the worst stadium food you've ever had?
Mm.
And there was some absolute crackers in that list out of 25. The hot dog on picture one was the most, I don't know who had the nerve to do that, but the sausage must have been like three times longer than the bun. There was also one where the sausage inside the bun was like half the length of the bun. The one from Baltimore, my local stadium, the Orioles, that was actually one of the first pictures on the article. It was a pretzel with crab mixture. Oh, it just looked vile. Some of the cheese fries, like no cheese melted. There's literally a cheese slice on top of the fry. Absolute garbage. But that one from Everton, I don't even know what it is. It looked like it was spaghetti hoops jello. I'm going to say for the American audience.
That is exactly what it is. James
Oh
May,
God.
The former Top Gear presenter, he now does stuff for Amazon because obviously they work for Amazon Prime now.
Yeah.
Well, he actually has a cooking show on Amazon Prime, and he made it. Basically, you put gelatin in spaghetti hoops.
That was the only thing I could think of from its shape. And then
Yeah.
there was those like Vienna sausages on top.
Oh no,
Oh
no, no,
no.
no, no.
And this is for the luxury box at Everton. Now, I was going to ask you what yours is. Worst food you've had. Oh, I saw one more that somebody mentioned. A Snickers and a Bovril. Like, that does not go together either. That's a terrible combination. I haven't had this one, but I have seen this one. It's a cheeseburger, which doesn't sound too bad. But instead of having the bun, it's actually a donut. So a donut cut in half, and then you got that doesn't work for me either.
Um,
Mixture of sweet and savory, but
I will say, I have seen, and it's becoming more a thing now, especially in a lot of high class restaurants, savoury donuts.
okay.
As in, instead of using like sugar and things, they're making like a savoury sort of a savoury filled donut, and it's not sweet at all. It's just savoury, and I'm like, well, that's basically a dough ball. There's nothing wrong with dough ball. Obviously, we have garlic dough balls all the time, Graham, don't you nowadays?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so it's the same basic concept. I have no problem with that. So if you're using a
This is not
savoury,
savory donut though. This is a sweet donut with a
then
burger
they're
inside.
then they're idiots.
Well, of course,
As a
absolutely.
chef, I will say that.
Now, which was the one that you were defending? Because I said, oh, you admired the presentation, but not the
No,
food
I
itself.
don't no. I admired the fact they managed to achieve it. I was sort of impressed, to be brutally honest. But at the same time, I was like, I ain't gonna ever fucking touch that.
Nah, it's totally inedible.
Nah,
All right,
nah.
what's the worst food you've had then? If it's not a sporting event, I guess it could be anywhere, but
Mm.
I thought I would at least put that one out to you because I was curious.
This one goes out to Chris for reminding me about this the other day. This was one of obviously I say last year. It's longer than that now.
Yeah.
Back when I was in Florida, we went to Epcot and it was the Food and Wine Festival, and there's amazing food there, always is. Well, we went to every booth, and I was like, I'm going to try a bit of everything because I want to broaden my palate, especially as a chef. I don't get a chance
Yeah,
to
of
do that much in this country.
course.
Um, so obviously, Chris was taking pictures and videos of my brain freeze and things like that. Became my cult hero. Um,
I remember it well.
One he forgot to post at the time, but then found a few months later and then uploaded, was when I tried sushi for the first time.
Oh, I'm not a fan of sushi.
It tuna one end and salmon the other. The
Yeah,
tuna end wasn't too bad. The salmon one, I projectile vomited.
good gracious.
That was not on camera, thank goodness.
When I first had it, it was at a Chinese buffet, and I was picking out
Whoa,
the
whoa,
stuff.
whoa, 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 whoa. Hold, before you continue, sushi at a Chinese buffet?
You can have that. They
No,
have bits of everything for people that perhaps if they don't like Chinese, then you can still go and you can still
you
eat
don't like
something.
Chinese. You don't go to a Chinese restaurant.
It's an Asian food. It's not that far away from the ballpark.
Do
But
you
if you
want?
don't
I
like
wouldn't
that
say that in Japan or China.
if you don't like that specific food, then you might still have a member of your family who would still want to eat with you. And rather than them have nothing, then you have to give them an option. Anyway, it was
Jim.
kind of in like the dessert section because although it's a Chinese buffet, Matt, they have other things. I know you're uncultured with things like this, so I'm going to explain a little more detail. Anyway, I saw like the apple pie, I saw all that stuff, and I saw what I thought was, and I'm blanking on the word. I think the word I'm looking for is like a macaroon or something. It was like kind of basically the texture of what rice is. And it kind of looked a little bit like that. So I got this thing, took a big bite, expecting it to be sweet. No, it was not a dessert item at all. It was sushi, and I had a similar reaction to what you did. I was not expecting raw fish inside there at the same. Oh, that was my one experience with sushi.
First
No,
and
I'm
last
not a
time.
seafood person anyway, particularly. Fish and chips is probably about my limit, to be honest. I'm not that adventurous with fish.
If that's the case, then Graham, what is the best food you ever had then?
Best, I can tell you the best thing about that stadium, hands down, straight away. The one that springs to mind instantly is Philadelphia. They have the mini helmets, and actually, you can get a life size helmet as well, plastic, obviously not the real one, but kind of a similar, filled with nachos, and that was my specialty. I used to rank a stadium by how good the nachos were.
You've said this, yeah.
This one had everything. It was the cheese. It was, I don't even know. There might have been two different types of meats. There was probably some salsa in there. There was some onions, some jalapeno. They had everything. Oh, it was huge and it was absolutely delicious. Or one that just sprang to mind at the same time when I first moved to the States. I didn't know about nachos when I moved to the States. With it being the Mexican food, it wasn't really that popular in England around 2000. It is more popular now, definitely. When we moved back to England in 2009, there was Mexican restaurants in the high street. When I left in 2000, there wasn't. You're pulling a face, perhaps where you live there might have been, but for me, that wasn't something. Like, I know what a tortilla chip is, admittedly, but we never really had nachos. The Charlotte Hornets used to do the same thing. It was like $10. They used to give you like an open case, kind of like the salad bar takeaway thing. And they were like, "Do you want this on?" And I was like, "Just load it up." The only thing I couldn't eat was the black olives. Oh my God, they were so good. I just used to starve myself before I went because I would eat the whole thing and it was massive. You know,
We,
American portions can be a little crazy.
I am fully aware, and one thing I noticed when I was in, I partially when we were in Florida, but I also noticed when we were in New York, Graham. I also because we mentioned it actually in the car. I've been
Yeah,
noticing the differences of perceptions of size and how, especially American size portions are extremely large sometimes. I
yeah.
mean, some of the things we used to go and get. One of the best things to get at Disney is because it's cheap and cheerful, is chicken strips and chips. I had that a lot, but at the same time, the portion you get, fantastic.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. It really is. I am now fully on board with the whole tipping thing as well. And certain people, and I'll tell you, do
I'm glad
um,
I mocked you enough to realize that that was unacceptable. What you
I
did,
learned.
Jersey.
To be fair, I put it down to my foggy head because of, never not acclimatizing at any point. I put it down to that because
You were very
I
sleep deprived, that's for sure.
I did take on board the first thing you said to me. I just applied that to everything going forward from that point. It was my own fault because it was 10% the first one. Unfortunately, I applied it to everything. But if you get the chance, Graham, and I dare say we'll be going back there in January, to Epcot, the Marrakesh Pavilion. They've got an amazing restaurant called Marrakesh, and it's the best lamb I've ever had in my life.
Wow,
Ever,
that
ever
lamb
had.
is really kind of rare in America. It's an expensive cut. It's not very common at all. When we get the chance to get it, like if we're going to a restaurant and we see like the lamb burger, Mal will pretty much have that all the time because it's kind
Mm.
of unusual to get it. And I actually regret massively last week for St. Patrick's Day. She's like, "Hey, what do you want?" And I was like, I don't know." And she suggested like corned beef and cabbage. I was like, "Sure, that's fine." And then too late, I realized I should have said Irish stew. Like that was something I used to like as well.
There's some beef there, Graham. Yeah,
You can have lamb as Irish stew.
yeah. No, no. Irish stew is supposed to be lamb.
Yeah.
However,
Oh,
a
there's cheap knockoffs. I understand.
unfortunately, nowadays you're getting people saying Irish stew with beef, and
No,
I'm like, no, 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 no.
that's just a
That
stew.
doesn't- that's a beef stew.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
it's not an Irish stew. Maybe beef stew Irish style, but
Sure.
it's not an Irish stew. It's not an Irish stew. Not an Irish stew at all. Yeah. I kid you not. This lamb, it just melted in my mouth, and I'm not ashamed to admit this. As a chef, that is the not only the best lamb I've ever had, it's the best food I have ever tasted. I cried.
Wow.
It was so good. Actually was in tears. Um, and Chris tried it. His mum tried it as well. It was to die for. Absolutely to die for. So much so, I gave a $30 tip.
I was just about to say so much so that you tip 15%. Ah, you actually
I
told You actually
I,
showed respect. Yeah, when food is that
it,
good, you will go to extra limits, definitely.
nearly 40%.
Woo! Is that because you did the math wrong?
Probably. But having said that, I also got a lovely cup of coffee in a handmade glass, and it was all stenciled and everything. I got to keep the glass, so I figured, well, you know.
Oh,
And to be fair, the guy who the waiter, he worked his backside off all night long for that tip. So as someone who, especially in the last year, I say like, well, as soon as I get back to Florida again, I'm not going to be tipping quite on that level because I don't think I'd be able to afford to do so.
yeah.
But I fully respect all of you guys for that, and
Yeah.
hopefully they bring in the whole minimum wage thing for servers because
I
God knows
certainly
they
hope so.
God
That's an
knows they deserve
outdated
that.
system, and it's absolutely appalling. It's like $2, $3, and yeah.
It's ridiculous. Hopefully that can be adjusted in the future going forward.
I would certainly hope so as well. Yeah, there are definitely cases when I've tipped 30, 40% as well. If they've got sometimes they'll like bring you an extra drink for no reason. They're like, hey, there are certain people that really do look after you, and then you definitely appreciate that. All right, we're nearly at 20 minutes. I think we've got to wrap it up. We only had one thing each, right? Jeez, boy, can we talk, Matt. Whew. Can you imagine if we'd had 5 things to talk? This has been longer than the episode.
That's not too bad. I've only quarter of an hour, but not 20 minutes. But never mind.